Hello again, everyone, and welcome to One on One. I'm Martin Falls, very pleased to have the City Marshal with us today, Herbert Fitch. And of course, I remember Herbert Fitch way back in the day when he started with the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. He's going to be our guest on One on One. We'll be right back. Don't go away. One on One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. You're bringing back old names of rank and file, old school mentality. It's changed a little bit, hasn't it?
It changed a lot.
Yeah.
It changed a lot. It upsets me somewhat, when we can't do that. That's not our job, or that's not my job. I don't tell people that because I feel as law enforcement, if there's something going on and people come to you, that's your job to assist and help. I've always said that, I'm not going to tell you I can't help you. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you. Joe H., for example. Joe watched me grow up. Joe was one of the guys bringing ducks to my mom to clean. And in law enforcement, there's a couple of times I've called him up and said, hey, can I come talk to you? He's always opened the door to me, treated me like a little brother. I lost a bunch of friends and family when I became a police officer because a lot of my family refused to have anything to do with me because I was a cop. Mm-hmm. But then I made new friends, some better friends. The guys at the Houma Police Department, like I say, Greg Hood, John Price, Chief Smith. Mm-hmm. My father-in-law was E. Knock-In.
Really? And I never knew that.
He had the two sons, Troy and Clay.
Yeah.
Which I have a lot of respect. Actually, Troy works with me.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys took me into their wing.
I never realized that connection.
But Tony Revet was a guy that, I love Tony Revet.
Oh, yeah.
During Mardi Gras parades, I would run to the Intercoastal Bridge when they had the little open bridge, and I'd wait there to see him and Mike Soule drive up on motorcycles. That was two guys that I don't know, they were like my idol.
You just answered. Remember we opened up the show and we were trying to remember how we got to know each other? Holiday Inn. Remember the buffet?
Right, right.
Tony Revet and that whole crew, we'd go eat with y'all. You just answered my question.
Right.
But that was a fun crew also. They knew how to let their hair down and have a little fun. I remember Jack Smith. I was a young reporter, and I went in there and I said, Chief, I'm here to do a story on this particular situation. He said, young man, would you give me a couple of days and it involved the police department. He said, to get my stuff straightened in, I'm going to come to you when I'm through, and I'm going to give you the whole detail. But right now, I got some butt chewing to do. I went, yes, sir. 2 days later, he called me. He laid it all out. He wanted to take care of his thing first.
Right.
So.
Well, and another thing with those guys, like after Mardi Gras, Mardi Gras gets pretty hectic sometimes for the police. Mm-hmm. So we would plan a camp trip down to Dularge Marina, and we'd invite every police officer that wanted to come. We'd all pitch in $15, $20, which would help buy food and all, and anything you wanted to drink, you had to bring your own. And we spent a whole weekend at the camp fishing, balling seafood, cooking, just to relax. No work around. We didn't talk about work. We laughed and joked about things that happened, but that's how we would do it. And we don't do that no more, Martin. I find that law enforcement's kind of a little spread out now. It's not as tight as it used to be.
I don't guess it's no one person's fault. It's just times have changed.
Right. People are working now. They're trying to make money to survive.
Right.
But, there's times we need to just say, hey, time out. Mm-hmm. Take a break, go relax, let some of that stress go, come back to work after a good fun weekend, and let's get back to things,
So what made you decide to run for city marshal?
It actually started off as a joke. Mark Petrie with the DA's office.
Yeah.
We was at his daughter's wedding, and everybody was talking about all the guys that were going to run for sheriff.
Right.
And I got asked a couple of times, and I said, I have to think about that. I said, I like where I'm at. I like what I'm doing. I enjoyed the school. I was having so much fun with the students and all.
Mm-hmm.
So we were at the wedding, and Mark started telling people at the wedding. He says, "Yeah, we found out Herbert's going to run for city marshal." So everybody at the wedding started coming up. "Oh man, you're really going to do this?"
Yeah.
I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, I haven't given it any thought." I said, I don't know. I said, depending on who the new sheriff is, I'd like to try again with him. I got a couple more years to go before I can retire. Well, they kept on, and then word got out to some buddies of mine. Then the next thing you know, I'm called to a big meeting with all my buddies, and they start pushing. I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And that's how it started.
You think about those days you were running from John Price, and you're sitting here today being interviewed, the city marshal of Houma. You've come a long way.
Yes, sir. And I've been very fortunate to have the friends that I've chose to hang around with, and the people that help me. Like I say, Joe Waits is one of my biggest, because if he had to fuss, he was gonna tell me, and I got a lot of respect for that man. Sheriff Lobner, like I said, he'd bring me in, chew me out for what I did wrong, tell me where I went wrong, what I did, and would tell me sometimes, I fire people for less than that. Yes, sir, I do. All right, go on, get out of my office. And then I'd see him an hour or two later. "Hey, you going fishing this weekend?" I've been very fortunate, and I look at my work ethic today is what my mama, taught me as I was coming up, and how to treat the people and what to do.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. You're a prime example of how road bumps didn't knock you off the road.
I wouldn't let it, Martin. I wouldn't let it. I lost a lot of good friends I was really tight with, who decided to go the other way. And with me hanging around with the police officers I did, and they taking me under their wing and were teaching me the right thing, I just got more and more involved with them, and felt that was the road I wanted to take. Being city marshal was the furthest of my dream. I always had that dream of running for sheriff one day, and getting in there. It was the same thing with the fire department. I did 30 years as a volunteer fireman.
Right.
Never ever thinking I would become fire chief. Roy Pennington was the fire chief when I went in 1987.
Right.
And he stretched out his hand, he said, "Welcome, come on in." And he was another guy that I looked up to, as a father figure. He taught me a lot. My first fire, I'll never forget, was the bar, used to be the cockpit lounge on the airbase. First working fire I got there. I'm there and I'm pulling a hose, and he walks up to me and said, "You scared to put an air pack on?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Pack up." And I looked at the other fire and said, "He's serious." He said, "Yeah." So that was the first burning building I ever went into, and I went in with a guy by the name of Ray Billiot. And after that, I was always the first one to jump on an air pack, put it on, wanted to run into a building. And Roy helped me out a lot through my life also.
Roy was a disc jockey?
Yes. That's how I first met him.
I was a disc jockey at the old radio station. He used to go in the shift right before me. He was a hoot. Yeah,
right.
But he had a serious side to him too.
I learned with Roy on how to put things in order and how to deal with them, and don't try not to let it get inside your head and mess you up. There was one time he told me, he said, "This on top of you," he said, "that's a powerful tool. Don't never let it control you. You control it." I learned a lot from that guy. That guy, he's a very smart guy.
But do you think it's luck or fate? Once again, because you lost that presence of a dad at an early age, that these men kept coming in your life and steering you where you went?
I would say fate. I wouldn't say it was luck, Martin.
Okay.
These certain guys that came into my life, they played that father role. And some of them I got very, very close to, and they were digging in their pockets as I was growing up, giving me money to go to school, helping me out with things. when Mom was cleaning the ducts and I would carry ice chests out to the vehicles for the guys, they would give me a tip, $5, $10 tip, you know, and I'm like, really? The Worslows, Mr. Kermit and Miss Peggy, got very close. I looked up to them as my grandparents. And Miss Worslow used to, for Christmas, she used to go out and spend a bunch of money on myself and my two sisters and bring us Christmas gifts. Dan Davis did the same thing, you know. Dan's another one I've been knowing since I was a small kid that just was there for me if I needed him. And even today, he still tells me, you know. And I felt it was faith that I was never a real religious person. But then when I started at South Terrebonne as an SRO and I started working with those kids and trying to build their self-confidence up to keep them out of trouble and let them know that what I went through as a kid and some of the things they're going through, they can change if they wanted to. It was up to them, not up to Mom and Dad. It was up to them to make that right decision, you know. You hear today that they said, it starts at home. It starts at home. Kids do what they do because Mom and Dad are not strict, but you have to let Mom and Dad do their job, you know. You can't go there as a police officer and want to arrest Mom and Dad because she whipped Martin. You can't do that. You have to let them do their job. Now, I always felt as a police officer, if you can't go to a parent's house and determine the difference between discipline and abuse, then you shouldn't be there. Because if I did something, Mom put the belt on me. And there was a lot of times I ran, not to get the belt, but caught it that night when I came in.
Right.
You know?
I had that old school discipline too. I always tease people. I say, well, I'm probably going to be a candidate for a knee replacement. And they go, why, sports? I go, no, kneeling in the corner.
My oldest sister Lena, she was the oldest girl. Yeah. And she always took up for me because I was the baby boy. She stood by me when Mama would whip me. She would tell Mama, oh, don't do that to him. But my mom was strict. She would tell you, don't tell me how to raise my kids. And a lot of times I would run off and call her to come get me. Even today, she still stands by me, just like my mom. She is my mother figure. She supports me in everything I do. She's there with me. And I feel a part of my mom in her. On times that she called me when I'm sick and I refuse. I don't like to go to doctors, you know. I like old people remedy. Sometimes I'll call somebody, one of the older people on the bar and say, hey, what do y'all used to take for this? Or what type of plant does this? And they'll tell me, and I'd rather do that than go to a doctor. Well, you know, being a baby boy, she still fusses today.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. Did you go to Mechanicville growing up?
I started off in Honduras Elementary.
Yeah, okay.
Brian Dumas was the principal.
Yeah, all right.
And I used to do good in an early age.
Right.
You know, and then from there I went to Acadian Elementary, still doing good there. I left there, I went to
Was
Legion
John
Field
Wayne
School.
Chess on a principal? If he was, that's why you did good. You wasn't going to cross him any.
I forget who the principal was there,
Okay.
but I remember he had a paddle called Big Red, and I felt that paddle a couple of times.
Right.
And then from there I went to Legion Fields, and that's once I hit the 4th grade. I used to get bullied. I was a real small kid, so I used to get bullied a lot. I remember coming home crying to my mom one day, and my brother, I have one brother. More than my brother's a man.
Yeah.
You know, he worked oysters ever since he was in the 3rd grade. So his hands were like solid as a rock.
Yeah.
I never wanted my brother to hit me. And I came home one day, I got beat up in school. And he says, you're not coming home and cry to mom anymore. You're going to learn how to defend yourself. So I started learning how to fight a little bit, and I started hanging around some relatives of mine who were real fighters.
Yeah.
And they taught me how to defend myself. And my first fight, big fight, was at Legion Field School. And after that, I started fighting and started working out a lot, and the bullying slowly got away. As I got to Oaklawn, I started getting in more trouble because then I met guys that I just wanted to be around,
Right.
and we wasn't going nowhere. They had a small gang. I joined the gang with them. I didn't want to tell my mom nothing like that, you know. I joined that gang with them. I stayed in that gang for a while, and I started getting in trouble. And like I said, I started hanging around with these police officers, and they were like, "This is not the way it goes."
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make a decision, and I had to make it quick, because being locked up in that jail one time, that opened my eyes and like, no, this is not where you need to be.
And obviously, you made some good decisions. Let me ask you this final question, Herb, because I always ask my guests if I had all those people you mentioned today, Joe Waits, Roy Pennington, Dan Davis, John Price, we can go down the line, on and on and on. And I got Judge Hagan in there, who you got to work with closely today. So I got some guys that knew you back when, some guys that know you now. I was able to get your mom, put in a couple of words, and your brothers, and all them tough Fitch family members down Grand Caillou, and everybody else that grew up around there. And I said, give me one word to describe Herbert Fitch. What would you hope the one word would be?
Dedication. Because I'm dedicated to my job, Martin, and I felt the people of this parish gave me an opportunity to do something, put me in a position, and I can't let them down. You know, I'm not worried about letting myself down. I can't let the people down in this parish because they put their trust in me. And there's one lady I got to tell you about. Her name is Nanette Hunter. I met her when I worked security at Tropical Oasis. And she had a daughter that was getting in a lot of trouble. And she came to me and she says, I need some help. I'm going to lose my daughter. So her daughter and I became real good friends. And anytime her daughter got in trouble, she called me and I would go handle her. And that's another one that decided to make that choice to move the right ways. She's a registered nurse today.
Wow.
She lives out of state. She does real good. And Nanette has 7 daughters, and she has her hands full. But she calls me her only son. And when my mom died in 2013 of cancer, she called me up and she met with me. And she says, I want you to know you have one mom left. And she calls me. If she hadn't heard from me in a week, she's going to call to check on me.
Yeah.
You know, and she's been like another mother, you know, and that's the kind of people that has come into my life and helped me get where I'm at today.
You've earned your keep, so to speak, and we appreciate all the time and service you put in, even when I was a young guy and you were a young police officer and we were riding on the beat. We had some fun moments, but it was serious business, and you've climbed the ranks. You're now the city marshal. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Herbert, for being here.
I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
All right. For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.